All right. Well, welcome to Tina and Karen Do the Tube. I am Karen.
This is Tina.
All right, Tina, you didn't use the cartoon voice. What the hell?
I've been thinking about getting rid of it lately, but I can always bring it back.
More professional, more cool. All right. Okay, cool. All right. All right. What you're hearing right now is a track from the Sub 49 Collective. The track is called Resist. And the artist behind it joins us here today on the Tina and Karen podcast. His name is Minor, or at least that's his DJ stage name. But we like to call him Ty. Ty is Tina's roommate, host of the Freak House podcast, partner and co-founder of the Sub 49 record label, that might not actually be the right term, and lover of seafood. Tina made me write that. All right. He joins us here to discuss his journey, his music, his vision, and perhaps his destination as a world-renowned bass house DJ. Ty, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
All right.
Thanks for coming on, Ty, or should we call you by your Tina and Karen podcast name?
Yeah, we like to give an honorary female name to every single one of our guests. Therefore, they're the third one. What would your female name be?
Oh, I would be honored to be referred to as Carmela.
Carmela.
Indeed.
Well, we'd love to give you. We love that you're here, Carmela. All right, but first things first, just tell us your story. Tell us the story of what got you into music and what got you here to where you are now.
Oh well, yeah, happy to go into that. Yeah, ever since I was a little kid, I've always been. I think the best word to put, I've always been obsessed with music. So from the time I started learning piano, I didn't care so much for learning classical music in the sort, but I really enjoyed writing it, like just writing out melodies on the piano and things like that, writing lyrics and all those things. Was exposed to a lot of soulful music growing up, but my taste leaned more towards like rock music. Started out listening to pop punk, then eventually found my way to grunge. Played in a band when I was in junior high and high school, and we wrote original tunes while playing in that band. And so music's always been like kind of the dream for me, and ever since I was a little kid, that's always kind of what I wanted to do, as opposed to like what I could see myself doing as a profession, if you will. And sure enough, I discovered electronic music about 9 or 10 years ago or so, and really started getting into it around 2013. And I've been learning how to produce ever since 2013. And it's been a long road, a lot of diversions, a lot of detours just in my life in general. I've kind of done a few different things in my adult life, but really started to take things to the next level and take it a lot more seriously in 2018, when I started the Minor project and started putting out bootlegs and then eventually original tracks as well. So yeah, that's kind of the story in a nutshell. Music has always kind of been at the center of my life, and I always intend for it to kind of stay that way.
So you wrote lyrical songs back in high school?
Wrote what kind of songs?
Lyrics, because you said you would write your own lyrics.
Yep. Yeah. No, I'd write lyrics to tracks, and I played lead guitar in the band, so I definitely wasn't the lead singer type. I even had pretty bad stage fright back then. But yeah, I would write lyrics and melodies, and yeah, and we had a pretty solid group, and we had a falling out, for different reasons, but it was cool. We got to play at King Cat Theater back when that existed, and Showbox at the Market.
Oh wow.
Nice.
El Corazon, a few different spots that at that young of an age, I don't know if many bands get access to that. So we were it was a good time, and although I missed the band element, it's kind of nice being solo with music and sometimes collaborating, but it's a completely different dynamic.
Yeah. And you said that part of your thing while you were in a band was that you had some stage fright, and part of your Minor project is that you tend to wear a lot of masks. So is that kind of connected to that? Or?
No, it's the pandemic, Marty.
Yeah, I'm just being a responsible citizen. Tina, you really hit it on the dot there.
Mm.
Yeah, like when I first started DJing, I was still kind of like getting my bearings for things, and as you guys probably know, like if you just incorrectly push like one button, you can just train wreck so quickly. So although like once you get the hang of DJing, it can feel pretty seamless. In the beginning, I was just I was so stressed, and like playing in front of people was like this terrifying thing. So yeah, I started out by wearing like a sort of cloth mask, and I would put lavender and eucalyptus in it, and so that way,
something no one would know if but you.
Yeah, exactly. And so literally I'd just be huffing straight, lavender fumes while I was playing, and if anything started to go like just wrong or just slightly off course, it would just calm me it would calm me down quite a bit and kind of center me. So, but yeah, eventually like I didn't need that, and then it kind of became more of an aesthetic thing, and now I wear a fake gas mask. I wish it were a real one. That would be a lot more useful.
That seems to be a trend amongst like DJs and tech type musicians. They all wear masks. Isn't that like that? I mean, Deadmau5 definitely wears a mask. I mean, Daft Punk wears masks.
Marshmallow,
yeah. So,
but those
what
are.
do you think? Yeah.
I mean, I guess they're masks, but his is more just of like a face covering.
But do you like anonymity when you're on stage, or you want it to be about the music, or do you want it to be like as much as about you as possible?
Well, it's also a fair question. I mean, I'd like to. I mean, if it were up to me, like say, we're in a kind of a dream scenario, and I'm on tour, and I get to, have a lot more creative control as to the visuals and everything like that. I would want as much focus on the audio visual experience and like the least amount of attention on me as possible. I just don't like that sort of attention, and I'll get up in front of people and do the thing because people pay to go to a show, and there's certain expectations. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's about trying to draw as much attention as possible to this kind of like world I'm trying to create. And so I don't know, like there are some people that don't know what my real face looks like, which is comforting. I feel like I have a bit of privacy that way.
And how many performances do you think you've done at this point?
I don't know. I mean, I was fortunate enough. I got my first kind of major booking in September of, what year? Yeah, September of 2018. I want to say. At Q nightclub, had the opportunity to play the opening set for a sold out Shiba-san show, so that was really cool. And then once things started to really pick up. With the launching of Sub 49 and all of us getting together and people, kind of like jumping on board. I was fortunate enough to play about 2 sets a month consistently throughout, most of 2019 and into this year. So it's probably in the 20s or low 30s, I'd say. Yeah, I don't know. It was getting pretty consistent though, and so when quarantine happened, it was kind of a hard adjustment. But I actually enjoy just staying in my room and producing anyway. So
okay.
Yeah, it's been a good ride so far.
Yeah.
No complaints, and I am just having a really good time doing it.
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about your? I just noticed this when I was going through your SoundCloud the other day, but your new like Freak House thing that you're kind of putting on.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, so I've done like, this is my 3rd attempt at trying to have some sort of legitimate mix series. And this one I feel really good about. My buddy Chris Austin, who goes by Yama, is doing all of the mix covers. So the design that you see on each release of that is designed by him, and he has this really cool, almost like old school rave collage sort of aesthetic that he curates. And as soon as I saw he was making stuff like this, it kind of inspired me to get back into trying to launch some sort of mix series. And I don't really, it's funny because, prior to the show, y'all were asking me like, how do I describe my music? And I just find it a lot easier to put like a completely fake name on it that, because that way it's like I can just kind of make what feels good to me. And if people can like try to categorize it however they want, but for me, I can kind of like make stuff under this like fake genre name of Freak House, and it's just kind of freeing. I don't have to like try to fit any formula or this or that. Obviously, like hard to like it's hard to escape influences, and obviously like people might say, oh, this reminds me of this or that, but yeah, so Freak House is kind of that. And I want to create this sort of sound and environment where people can truly be themselves, and that's the whole idea of Freak House. It's like it's supposed to create that sort of energy and feel where people can feel comfortable being themselves, so long as you're not hurting anyone.
Yeah. I got a couple questions to that, actually. So, I mean, do you feel like the whole categorization thing is like, what is that about? I mean, like back in like 5 fucking years ago, I don't know what long ago it was. Like, there's maybe 10 different genres of music, but now I see there's subgenres upon subgenres. What the hell is that about?
Yeah, so well, it's a good question, and I think like there's multiple layers to it, and specifically in electronic music, there's so many different genres and subgenres and offshoots, and there's new genres that are kind of popping up with each passing year, it feels like, because people are kind of they're kind of standing on the shoulders of giants and like kind of creating a new sound from sounds that preceded us. And part of it's practical, because as a DJ, beats per minute is a really important measure of a track, essentially how fast it goes. And so a lot of genre classification, it kind of has to do with how fast a track is, but also like stylistically, whether it's the percussion or the type of synths that are used, or the cadence of those synths will kind of define it as a genre. And in electronic music, it's really intended to make it easy for a DJ to be able to curate tracks of a similar vibe. And so that's, to me, like where the practical nature of classification in electronic music comes from. Of course, it can be quite the contentious thing.
Really?
Yeah, like if say
I just want to say, like, I always hear you guys like arguing, like, is this tech house or this more like house, or is this more, I don't even want to say rhythm, but
it actually like brings me back to like a conversation you and I had, Tina. I mean, a couple weeks ago when we had the whole conversation about the evolution of music. Everything sort of builds upon its like Ty was just talking about building upon like the shoulders of giants. Basically, it's everyone sort of like adds to the foundation that came before them, and they're trying to, I don't know, they can't like tear the whole thing down, because like electronic house music existed, so they have to find something that helps them stand out.
And like how contentious it could be.
It very competitive too. I mean, I was curious to ask Ty, how do you stand out? What do you have to do in order to like promote yourself?
Well, so I feel like a lot of good questions to explore there, and one last example I'll dive into that has been kind of a recent contentious issue. Is there's this new genre that's gaining a lot of steam worldwide, and it's being labeled speed house. So it's essentially house music that's
on crack.
Anywhere from anywhere from like 140 to 150 BPM, kind of in that range. And it's getting really popular because it kind of has this like old school rave sound to it, but it also goes pretty hard, and it's really friendly for dubstep or bass music DJs to throw into their sets to like up the energy a little bit, because it's the same BPM. Now it's a bit of a contentious conversation, because a lot of people are saying, well, this already existed in the form of speed garage and these other genres, and they're saying like, well, you can't really claim that you invented this, and I think that's kind of the issue is people have the idea that people are saying, oh, I invented this brand new genre, when in actuality, like, no one's really saying that. It's a new classification that makes sense because it's really the only way to like properly categorize it. It's definitely not garage, it's definitely not this, but you put the label Speedhouse on it and it makes sense. So it's and part of it too, which I think is a worthwhile conversation, is like the idea of like music gentrification, like people saying like, oh, like I created this new sound when the sound was founded by people of color, decades ago. But I think that's like, whenever there's like some sort of new sound being brought to the table, I think, so long as people know their history and they're not trying to make the claim like, oh, like I'm this like incredible genius, I invented this new genre, which I don't see anyone really saying that, but alas,
no, Kanye West is
kind of a, wait, what was that?
I'm just talking shit. I say Kanye West will tell you gladly that he's a genius.
Oh yeah, I mean Kanye West. Yeah,
I mean, you don't need to comment on it. I just threw that out because like I like his ego. I really do.
That's a whole nother rabbit hole, honestly. Like talking about Kanye West. I mean, sheesh.
Well, do you think artists need like a certain level of, I don't know, like narcissism or?
Ooh, good question.
To be like artists, maybe within music, just within the like music kind of art, or I see a lot of like DJs. They seem almost opposite of that, but a lot more.
I mean, just the fact that they hide their face, really.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think narcissism is necessary. It's kind of a weird conundrum because as a producer and a DJ, you have to do a lot of self-promotion, which, can definitely come off as like self-obsessed if it's done incorrectly, and we live in this day and age where, you ultimately have to put yourself out there and get people's attention. But I encounter egos quite a bit in the music industry, and I think just like anything else, like you're not really going to go very far if you're only interested in your success, and I think the ones that really stick around and have longevity, for one, they just stick true to themselves, and that's really all they try to push is just, hey, this is who I am, this is what you're going to get. But they also have a vested interest in other people's success, and that's kind of the reason why we started Sub 49 is I mean, to put it in like latent terms, there's this African proverb that says, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. So and I think that's why you see a lot of these collectives and groups pop up, because you can pool resources together, you can gas each other up. It's much easier to succeed as a community, and it helps take the emphasis off the individual and makes it about something bigger. And so I don't know, like I definitely don't think narcissism is necessary. Like I think it's definitely prevalent, but some of the artists I look up to the most, maybe they're not rolling in dough per se, but they've built really successful long-standing careers, and they make art that's true to them, and I think that's what's like the most infectious trait about them.
Yeah. Whenever I hear you guys talk about like music, and I've always like kind of wondered why, but you've always have like this disdain of like really popular like EDM music, and I can understand it, but I wanted you to like talk a little bit more about like.
Wait, I'm sorry, what EDM?
Electronic dance music is like the popular genre right now.
The chicka music.
Exactly.
I like the chicka music, man. You could dance to that, but it sounds like we're heading into a tour, a space of scorn. So I want to. So Ty, I mean.
for
I'm
me,
just trying to understand it a little bit more.
I mean, I get a
Probably
certain.
because I'm not within like the industry. I don't know like
I,
I know
I
that
mean,
the more popular stuff is more like overly produced and stuff like that, but
it very could be.
I it's not so much I have a disdain with anything that's mainstream or popular per se. I kind of more have a disdain with stuff that comes across as like cheesy or schmaltzy.
Very
You know,
corporate.
it's anything that's made, specifically for commercial purposes. I guess I would refrain from. And it's funny because there's even some styles of electronic music that I used to really love, and then I just like came to realize like, oh, this is like just kind of cheesy, and
The
it's just kind of a
Starbucks
personal
of
preference.
music.
Like, I personally think like, if you're disliking something just because it's like popular or mainstream, that's kind of a crummy personality trait. For me, it's just kind of, like, so there's like some popular stuff that I actually really enjoy that, some others, like, it might not be their jam, but for me, the stuff that really like kind of grinds my gears is the more cheesy schmaltzy stuff. And I think it's a fine line, like, because you want to make stuff that's catchy and that ultimately gets people dancing. That's the whole point of dance music. But I don't know, like, it once it starts to stray into that territory, I think it can be kind of a slippery slope for artists, especially if artists are kind of straying away from their sound by going that direction.
Interesting.
It's
So
the corporate
just
sterilization of music. It's Starbucks. That's what it is.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like
empty calories.
It's no, I mean it's the conformity that you find across all of Starbucks. You can go to a Starbucks anywhere in the fucking world, and it's the same goddamn store.
Yep.
I mean,
there should be
idea is
rich
you know
sound
what you're
wherever you. Yeah, I know it's quality. Yeah, but it's so uninspired. Really, it is.
Yeah. Well, because for instance, like Tech House kind of had this really big boom in 2019 where all of a sudden more and more artists were making it. It was getting a lot more radio airtime. And like artists like Fisher were just getting like incredibly popular to the point where he's playing these large, more EDM-y type festivals that you wouldn't find a tech house artist at per se. And with that, for instance, like tech house as a genre and with its roots, like there's a lot of good tech house that has been been produced over the last few decades, and is still being made. But then there's what I call fast food tech house. And and that's the stuff that really follows a formula. It's designed to sound very similar to hits that are getting a lot of attention in tech house. So I guess like that can be kind of a common thing. Like a fad pops up and then things happen. Like there's this other kind of new trend where with like even within techno, and a lot of people call it business techno because it's not on the experimental like avant-garde side of techno. It's designed with a specific formula and purpose in mind. And I'm not as knowledgeable in that topic, but I think it's a common thing, and it's I think it's born out of some producers. They start out making a certain style, and then they change tastes, or they figure out, oh well, if I want to achieve my goals, I kind of have to make this music. But that's why I think like from the get-go, I think it's important to just really figure out like, well, who am I? Like, what music do I want to make? And that can change over time, but it should always be kind of guided by like what you really want to make, not so much by like what society expects you to make, or what's gonna sell, or because I've seen artists that push a really new sound that doesn't fit the mold of what's currently being labeled, and then it becomes this whole movement. And I think that's a much more exciting prospect.
Yeah.
So
I was hold on. I was listening to this like Whitney Cummings and Dave Grohl podcast the other day, and I was listening to Dave Grohl talk about SoundCloud and his kind of experience with that, and how he used to make music, and I think he said like back in the day there was this website, or it was like scientists predicting like how popular your track will be. And it would like you put your song into it and it would like give you like a readout, and the readout was like a kind of like cluster, almost like looking at a bunch of stars, and you'd see like galaxies over here and maybe like a single star over there. And they said like the clusters were like how close a certain song is to like a popular song. And he's saying like, like the closer it is to the popular song, the more the predictably popular it's going to be. And so that's kind of maybe how these like really new songs will kind of build on each other, and that's how something that was kind of like tech house becomes almost too popular, and then other people have to find an avenue to find that new sound that they kind of want to imitate. And he was talking about how like SoundCloud it's been a good experience for like trying to find those artists that aren't connected to those major record labels in order to get out that kind of more unique sound and authentic sound almost.
Definitely. Well, and you bring up a good point there about, I guess predictability of popularity, and a tough grind of being a producer is pitching your tracks to labels and getting signed. Just the whole art of doing that can be a difficult thing, and it takes a lot of time to really understand like how various labels operate or how they function, what they're looking for. And I'm very fortunate to have been signed to labels that they focus more on like the sound of the artist as like a holistic thing, as opposed to trying to sign tracks that fit a sound they're looking for. Because that's also a thing, and definitely can't dock labels for that if that's their goal and intention. But I think it kind of changes the dynamic when a label tells you, hey, we support your project, and what you do. It kind of opens up the door where you can kind of continue to experiment and take risks and try different things instead like having to change whatever you're making to fit a certain box, So I think like labels play a pretty big part in ensuring that they're promoting that sort of individuality and pushing boundaries of different sorts, because that's how the industry moves forward. That's how we get new exciting sounds that are really refreshing as opposed to being recycled or overplayed. I'm really hoping that I'm kind of seeing a trend where it seems like breaks, which is a certain subgenre of electronic music, is starting to gain a lot more prominence, which is really cool to see. It's been an underground sound for a really long time, and a really niche sound, but there's a lot of signs that people are actually starting to gravitate more to that sound. People are starting to gravitate more towards drum and bass, and this is all in the U.S. obviously, because Europe has been on top of more nuanced sounds for a long time. But at least in the U.S., like it seems like people are kind of getting more of an ear for these sounds that used to be a lot more underground. And that's the kind of the fun part is, this is a constantly evolving industry and stuff's changing at every single moment. And in all of that, I think for artists, it's really important to just like figure out what you like to make, like what speaks to you, and figure out a way to like tie it all together, into a cohesive sort of experience.
Karen?
Yeah, I am.
Still,
sorry, I mean.
he's talking. He's pretty deep in the industry.
So he's getting deep into the industry, and I appreciate it. I was actually just looking up, like, because you had talked about how, like, Tina, you had talked about how SoundCloud was able to map what would be a hit and what wouldn't be, and that made me.
It wasn't SoundCloud. It was some formula that some scientists figured out.
Yeah, that's the thing, the formula. And I remember that reminded me of a story I heard like last year where like they plugged like a bunch of the top Eurovision popular songs into a computer and had an artificial intelligence write a song. And I was looking up the video because I can't play it for this because you guys can't hear it. But I mean, I remember hearing it and it's catchy. It's that like as Ty was talking about this, the that cheesy sort of thing that everyone sort of bobs their head to, but it doesn't like actually inspire anything deeper. But it was something called like Blue Jeans and Bloody Tears. But I don't know. It was catchy. But I did want to ask Ty another question here. Hold on, because I actually lived with a. You talk a lot, very deep technicals of the audio engineering game, and I kind of wondered, did you study that, or is it something that you just picked up? Because you said you went to college.
No, it's a good question. Yeah, I went to school for completely different things. I got a degree in economics and a degree in theater, but I started learning how to produce like halfway through college, and I learned music theory when I was younger. I took guitar lessons with a really good teacher, who incorporated music theory into everything we were learning. So from a young age, like I had knowledge of music theory and was able to write with that in mind, which I think is really helpful. And it's a great, understanding music theory, I think, is incredibly important as an artist.
Do you think that do you think that, like, what do you enjoy more about music, the creative process or the actual performing?
I think, my happy place is just, making music in Ableton. And that's kind of the world I love to live in. Like, performing is definitely fun in its own right. And I think it's for any producer, it's good to get a pulse of how people react to the tracks you're making and see if they're landing and if they're sort of, inspiring some sort of reaction from the crowd. Especially in dance music, that's kind of the spectacle of it all. After all, is dancing and movement. But my happy place is making it. I love experimenting and trying to try new things and just like dive deeper and deeper and deeper with each track and try to make something that's like refreshing and compelling, but that's kind of my happy place. And learning the technical aspects of production is definitely what takes a long time to really get a grasp of, processing and side chaining and various sorts of things. But I've been very fortunate to have some really good mentors along the way who are really good educators. And it's funny because you go through all these years learning these really complicated techniques and only to arrive at the fact that you got to keep it simple. So I don't know, it's been fun. Like, I'm just very blessed that I grew up being immersed in music. I think by the time I was ready to take the dive and start learning production, it made things definitely a lot easier, at least from like a songwriting standpoint.
I only so like this quarantine thing probably has given you a lot of time to focus on the creative part, I'm assuming. I used to live with a DJ a couple years ago, and I mean, I used to offer my help as a roadie or a manager. I wanted to get him out there. I wanted to get him to shows, but he never wanted to do that. The whole year we were living together, he was just in his room creating music, and that was what he took the year for. Do you kind of do the same thing? Do you like a year off, year on, or is it more like fluid? Is it all together?
Yeah, for me it's all together. If I say COVID wasn't a thing and live shows were still going on, getting booked about twice a month is a pretty comfortable number for me. And it's enough time to like get in front of people and continue like harnessing that skill, but also with enough time to really dive into tracks in the studio. But it's definitely a tough balance, and a lot of artists that are pretty big and touring have to really do everything they can to keep producing tracks, because nowadays You know, people have a much shorter attention span, and there's so much content. So there really is this demand for a lot of music, and if you're a big artist especially, there's this expectation that you're going to put out so many tracks a year. So if you're on tour and you're sleep deprived and in a different time zone every day, and sometimes the only time you get is in that 1 or 2 hours in the airport or in the hotel room. So I think, like, for me, I definitely have big goals for the projects that I produce under. So my kind of thing is, like, regardless of what I like to do, I have to be able to produce efficiently and continue to pump out tracks regardless of what's going on, whether I'm getting booked for 2 shows a month or something comes up. Like, I think it's just really important to just keep at it.
Okay. And like, we're gonna so about your tracks, because I was listening to that. I've been listening to them on and off for the last week.
I just want to point out that Karen's not the biggest electronic music listener.
No. I'll listen to it for certain occasions.
I know you'll listen to it. You like it, but
for instance, I was in my garage. I was working out, and I played all of Miner's tracks here, Ty's tracks, and I enjoyed it. It really got me pumped. And I was just going to ask about that. Like, when you write your music, do you want to convey a certain mood or idea, or is it just what sounds good to you? Or are you actually trying to because with lyricists, they can write it out as plain as day, so there's no misinterpretation. But with a DJ who writes his music in terms of beats and sounds, do you feel like you convey moods and ideas the same way that a lyricist would, or is it more just you're going for what sounds good to you?
Well, it's a good question. I think the fun thing about electronic music is you can get a lot more abstract with ideas, and I think there is more of an emphasis on trying to convey moods and emotions and feelings through the melodies and the soundscapes you create, as opposed to just straight up lyrical content. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I'll find like an inspiring vocal sample, or I will just like spitball some lyrics into the mic and work with that. But even then, like, with electronic music, you don't really want to always go the full like verse chorus route, because it can distract so much from the main event, which is the synths, the percussion, and everything else. But yeah, so I kind of enjoy that about electronic music. You can make things a little more ominous and abstract, which I think is a lot more fun to create than like the more literal side of other genres that are out there, and especially pop music. So I don't know, like I guess like it's all about the vibe, and so the vibe I try to kind of create is definitely a darker vibe, but more kind of melancholy, sometimes high energy. I think having like a lot of different sounds throughout a set's really important, and you have to be able to crank up the energy throughout. So that's also something I always try to keep in mind when I'm making stuff, is where does this fit in to like live performances? Like what tracks am I mixing this track with, and at what speeds, and so that's there are a lot of factors to consider, but to answer your question, like it really is kind of more about the vibe and the energy and the emotion behind the sounds that I'm making,
rather than the reaction you might be getting from the crowd or other people.
I mean, yeah, at the end of the day, like the point of dance music is to dance. So I mean, I think like that kind of comes with like the groove of the track. Like, it's usually if I'm dancing while I'm making it, it's like, okay, this is like, this has got a groove to it. I'm feeling it. But yeah, like, I think you got to kind of balance all things, like, but if you're only making stuff for other people and you're not making it for yourself, I don't know if that's really going to push any boundaries. Sometimes you have to kind of take a leap and experiment a bit and kind of see what happens. And I think the results from that can be surprising to a lot of people, because people are, they have expectations, and if you can blow those expectations away, I think it's pretty compelling.
Hmm. I mean, I think some of the best artists in the last, century since, modern music have come about have always pushed the boundary of what people expect from their music.
Also, how dare you, Tina?
What do you mean?
You accuse me of not liking electronic music. I like electronic music.
I was speaking more of Carmella's genres.
Oh, for fuck's sake! All right, I didn't mean to derail you from what you were saying.
No shame either way. Everybody, different strokes for different folks.
No, but I'm a lover of all music, and I have a different genre for almost any mood I'm in. Really, I mean, I hate jazz. Everything else is great.
I never understood that about you.
Well, it's just noise to me.
There's a structure there that you play within that structure.
I'm sure there is. I don't understand.
Certainly not something you really can get out of a electronic set, right? Carmela. It's like there's not a whole lot of room for improvisation.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I really dig jazz. I think I don't know, like jazz and blues are kind of the bedrock of all modern music in a sense.
I like blues.
Yeah,
definitely. Willie Dixon,
for sure.
Smokey, Blind Willie Johnson. I think that's a good one. Look him up.
You can go back to the brother.
Well, all right. Okay. Continue.
Sorry to cut you off, Carmela.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, just jazz and blues are really cool. I don't know. Like I haven't experienced enough like live jazz, and I'd like to experience that more. Maybe that's something I can put high on my bucket list once all of this COVID shit is over. But I don't know, like what I enjoy about jazz is kind of like classical music. It has a sort of finesse to it, that's really nice. And I think for anyone that composes music, it's interesting listening to those styles and seeing, trying to like understand like how music that was composed so long ago can apply to today's much more digital and standardized like landscape. So I don't know, like I'm just kind of a big music nerd. I think like the only genre I truly have disdain for is like pop country. I think it's all just garbage. It all just kind of sounds the same.
I agree.
But I think it's
funny.
by design.
One of my favorite sets you did was when you had your cowboy hat on.
I'm trying to reclaim the cowboy identity, and it's I'm sure it throws some people off. I think like the whole cowboy culture, the cowboy thing is cool. The whole like pop country thing though, it's like, man, it's just talk about schmaltzy. That's kind of.
I agree 100%. I mean, but I'll take it one step further. The whole pop genre, as many as catchy tunes that can come out of the pop genre, I feel like the whole thing is very, as we talked about earlier, very manufactured. It's not very inspired. If I'm going to listen to country, I'll listen to Johnny Cash. That's fucking good country.
Oh yeah, no, Johnny Cash. Yeah, no.
I was gonna ask you, like, so even though you dig a certain genre, the electronic genre, do you have, now that you're like a music producer, do you have an appreciation for what like other genres when you can tell what a good is from bad in no matter what genre it is?
Oh, certainly. Well, and even in electronic music, like I'm pretty open-minded, and I like being open-minded because. Like there's so much good music being made in a number of different genres. I think the same rule applies for me. Like if it's if I can kind of tell it's if it sounds forced or if it's just trying to fit within a certain formula or whatever like that, like that's where it'll be a little more off-putting. But it's really hard for me to find a specific electronic genre that I can't get into. Of course, like I can't really get down to like what's considered bro step anymore. It's just like
bro step. Wait, hold up. Bro step. What the hell's bro step?
So bro step, and this is an important rabbit hole because there's dubstep, right? And dubstep's a genre that's been around. Gosh, I might have to look it up, but I mean it's been around for a while, like at least like 20 years, at least in some aspects. But bro step is kind of what like most popular stuff that you'll hear is kind of considered bro step. It's very like aggressive. It has very much
as opposed to the subtle dubstep.
Yeah, like like original dubstep, it kind of like borrowed more from kind of mixing like styles of like reggae and dub and genres like that with electronic sounds, whereas bro step is really heavy synths, and it definitely has more of like a kind of a rock vibe than anything, and I think that's why it's kind of referred to as bro step. And it won, when the wave was first happening, it was a lot of bros who were making it, and the sort of kind of bro culture that formed around it. But yeah, so that's like kind of what's considered bro. I can't really get down to that anymore, but I used to be really into it, because it was like it was kind of a familiar sound for me, something that's more aggressive.
It's something that could lead you into more different genres almost.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Like and I eventually found my way to house music in like around like 2015 or so. And I mean, house music has a really rich history, and you can follow it all the way back to
Chicago,
to blues.
right?
Yeah, well, in Chicago is where the house movement really started, and it's called house music because they would essentially party in a specific warehouse in Chicago, and it was pioneered by the Black queer community, and it was supposed to be this sort of like safe place where people that were different could come and enjoy themselves, and house music kind of found that. I mean, house music has its roots in disco. And so house music kind of was born out of this desire to take disco and up the tempo a little bit. And so the sort of sound came out of that. And from there, so many different offshoots of different varieties, everything from tech house to ghetto house to deep house, and everything in between. I mean, there's probably over 20 different house subgenres easily.
Yeah. The thing about like house music is like if you just stick to like pure house music, I would say it feels like the least like narcissistic out of all those genres, because it's just very inclusive, and everyone's like on board with what's going on in the moment.
Yeah, I mean, that's at least the intent of house music, and a lot, some people would say that there definitely has been a sort of gentrification of house music, and I think that's an important conversation to have. I think the biggest thing that is important in electronic music is it's the barriers to entry to learn how to produce music is pretty low, but as long as you understand the history that you're producing within and the context of that, that's what's most important, and then you can properly pay homage to the people that made such a genre and movement possible, and carrying forward that idea of creating a safe space and safe environment for people to be themselves, and I think that's what this world needs more than anything.
Yeah.
I mean, just imagine if everyone could be themselves, with of course the caveat, so long as you're not hurting anyone. I think it would be a pretty beautiful place.
It's so interesting, like since the advent of the internet, you think we'd have so much access to all this information, and we'd just be able to gain much better understanding of people, because they'd be able to talk from their point of view and their experiences, and how it seemed like so promising, but then how like compartmentalized it just became, where it just
the exact opposite happened. People found more people who agreed with them, and then they just receded to their own echo chambers. That's what happens.
Yeah.
They're not looking to challenge.
I would be sad if that happened within like music too.
No, but that's what happens. People will look to basically, it's sort of the confirmation bias. They no one wants to be proven wrong. They just want to hear that they're right.
Mm-hmm. And that's not something you're saying in music,
well,
Carmelo.
Well, no, I mean, any industry is definitely has its challenges, and I'd like to think that people that enjoy electronic music for the most part are open-minded, but it's become such a popularized genre that I think a lot of people have a lot of frustration with how far away electronic music is from its roots. Because as soon as big companies realize they can make money off electronic music, it really changes the dynamic.
They started to try to curate the artist a lot more.
Yeah, or they it rather than really putting a lot of import on having safe spaces and a community feel to everything, which I think is very much still alive and well in the underground. It's just this emphasis on, well, how do we maximize profits? How do we how do we pack this venue?
You're talking about like the major festivals and the big events.
Yeah, and I think like there's some large festivals that do things really well, and they are definitely invested in creating a unique and unforgettable experience. And I don't know, like one festival that comes to mind is Shambhala, which is up in Canada. I think they do a really good job of maintaining that sort of community feel and that safe space sort of feel. But I think and there's other companies that have been, they came up from the rave scene and do a really good job. Like I think Insomniac in particular, they throw some of the biggest massives out there, but nonetheless, like they are still rooted in their history and everything like that. But like there's, I think like it definitely changes the dynamic, and I think it's up to artists to really take it upon themselves to do more to create these safe spaces and inspire that, because that's what we need. Like if someone doesn't feel safe going to an electronic show and being themselves, then I think it's definitely a fail.
Interesting. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. Before the pandemic, I heard you and Jonathan were going to Ultra, but then I found out you weren't going to Ultra to see like the main acts. You were going there to go to all the small clubs around there to get the vibe from those artists.
Oh yeah, Miami Music Week. Yeah, we were. So that's like what the whole week is called, and it all leads up to Ultra. And yeah, I wouldn't be opposed to Ultra. I would definitely avoid the main stage because that's like, to me, the epitome of like, I guess fast food EDM on display. Not to say that there aren't artists that play the main stage that I would be, very much down to see, but they also curate some lesser known like side stages that host a variety of underground sounds that are probably really exciting. I've never been to Ultra, so I can't say whether or not I'd have a good time. But Miami Music Week is a really cool event, and there's just so many pool parties and club shows going on all week. And it's just like, so we needless to say, we were excited to go, and we were actually booked for a couple of things down there. But alas, we'll just have to go check it out a different year.
Yeah. If it's anything like the one time I've been to Miami, it's probably pretty crazy. Any experience down there.
Oh yeah, I could imagine so. Yeah, Florida in general is just crazy, and you take its most prominent city, its cultural focal point. I can only imagine how what the energy
how
is
off
like.
the rails it could be.
Florida,
yeah,
man.
exactly.
Hey, so I know that you have a sort of hard line. We got to get you out of here because you're going to another event after this.
Oh, well, Sub 49 is hosting a live stream tonight. So I do have to kind of jump to that here in a little bit. For anyone that wants to check out our live streams, we do have a Twitch page. Just look up Sub 49 Collective and you'll find us. So that's what's on the menu tonight. I wish I was going to like a physical event, but alas, the virtual world is what's dominating currently.
Right. Mm-hmm. I had one more question before we got into our final hot seat round. Because based on your personal Facebook page, you quoted Anne Frank, and just allow me to read the quote because quote, "Look at how a single candle can both defy and define the darkness." End quote. Could you elaborate on that? Why that quote? Why choose that to describe your page?
Oh, certainly. Anne Frank, talk about. The words that carry on her legacy to this day. I think they're so important. And so often I think they're overlooked, and right now, especially with how the times are, I think her words can ring even more bright. For me, like I'm a quarter Jewish, and I had a couple of ancestors that were killed in the Holocaust, so I've that kind of connection to Anne Frank and what she was enduring, just based on that. But that specific quote, I think, The emphasis is darkness, and that's the focal point of that quote. But I think like everyone has the power to defy the pain that they've endured or the trauma they've experienced. But those same people are just as capable of I guess afflicting others. I think it's always important that we understand that we do have the power to do both good and bad, and we have to work towards being the best we can possibly be, and to not inflict harm on others, but also defy whatever we've gone through and overcome that.
Very well put.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Tina, before we enter the next part of the podcast, do you have anything more to say?
No, I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's fun to talk about these things.
Yeah.
When I'm so deep in this kind of world environment, I take for granted how interesting it all is when I step back and get to talk about it. So
okay. So that question was for Tina, actually.
I think Ty.
Oh shit! Sorry, Tina. Yeah. Sorry to say that.
Do you is your chair warm? Do you feel ready for the hot seat?
My seat is actually very warm.
Oh, so. Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so just so you're aware, the hot seat round is not a lightning round. There's no need to answer these questions as fast as possible. Just keep your answers clear and concise. We do the hot seat just so our listeners have a better full understanding of who you are. We don't plan on asking follow-up questions or challenging you on anything you say. If you don't feel like answering a question, either too personal or just no good answer pops into mind, it's okay to pass. All right? Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
All right. Hot seat. What is something you know a lot about?
Music.
What is something you don't know a lot about?
Cooking.
What is your favorite curse word?
Fuck.
If you had to sleep with a male celebrity, who would it be?
Oh, that's a tough one. So many handsome dudes out there.
One. What's the question?
It doesn't have to. It doesn't. It has to be just one. So.
Just one. God, let me think about that.
There's no phone a friend here.
Yeah, I know. Honestly, like I'm kind of like frozen up on this question. I'm gonna get you an answer ASAP. Let me think here.
All right, we'll move on. Oh.
It's like growing up, like I was a big fan of Denzel Washington.
Okay.
So if I had the pleasure of Catching Denzel in his prime. I mean, hell, even today, fuck it, he's still a handsome dude. But yeah, Denzel Washington. I've always really fucked with his acting and his work. He's a dope dude.
All right. What is love?
Not where I thought you'd go.
What is? Oh, sorry. Okay.
Wait.
What is love?
Baby, don't hurt me.
That's all right. God damn it! That's the first person to answer that one correctly. God damn, I love it. All right.
There's only one correct answer for that.
Yeah, there is only one correct answer for that. Thank you. All right.
All right. You disappointed Karen.
No, you did not disappoint me. That's the only question I cared about.
Yeah, that's I can see where that could be a trap for most people when they start talking about love is this.
Baby, no, the only correct answer is baby don't hurt
I don't
me.
know what love is. I'm probably the last person you should ask.
Okay, if reincarnation exists, what would you want your next life to be?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I don't know. So I've kind of thought about this before, but I would love for my dog who has passed to be a human and for me to be his dog.
All right.
I would love to experience that dynamic. I've actually thought about that before, and that would be like my ideal reincarnation scenario. Just to be his good boy,
All right. All right. Is the human voice the ultimate instrument?
I would. I mean, it's tough. The human voice is pretty dynamic, but to me, I don't know. My favorite instrument is for sure the guitar. I think the guitar is a really versatile instrument. Is it as dynamic as the human voice? Definitely not. But that's definitely my instrument of choice if I had to choose one.
If you had $1 million, what would it be? Well, I'm sorry. What would you do?
Oh, if I had $1 million, well, first thing I'd probably do is pay off all my debt, and then, I don't know, like I would be pretty frugal with it. Probably buy some property out in Montana, build a log cabin with a nice studio, and maybe have some fat speakers. And then once I covered like all my bases and ensured that I could live off a good chunk for the rest of my life, I'd probably try to start a foundation of some sort. There's a lot of causes that are important to me, but I would try to do something meaningful with it once I had my bases covered.
All right. What is the most regrettable decision or purchase you made during the pandemic?
The most regrettable decision?
Yes.
Or purchase.
It's funny. I purchased a right as we're kind of getting started with like live streaming and stuff. I purchased like a random drone off the internet, and
I think I heard about that.
Oh yeah, well, and I received it. I thought it got lost. Back when all the supply chains were going to shit. I thought I had lost the drone. They couldn't deliver it to me, and then sure enough, like it actually came. But I haven't even touched it, and like I have no desire to like play around with it. That's probably my most like regrettable decision.
All right. All right.
If someone really like pushed me towards like learning how to operate it, like I mean fuck it, I'll do it. But
okay.
You got too many other good things to do.
Yeah. That's a positive way to look at it. Yeah, there you go.
Do you believe in free will?
I do. I don't know if this makes me like your quintessential American, but I do believe in freedom. I think with a lot of free will comes a lot of responsibility, and I think a lot of people forget that second part. But yeah, like free will. I really do believe a single human holds a lot of power and in what they can do. Regardless of their circumstance. So
okay.
I think that goes a lot back to your Anne Frank quote.
Yep. Boxers or briefs?
Ooh.
Yeah, it's much that's much tougher than free will.
Yeah, I'm all about boxer briefs, honestly.
Okay. Hybrid.
Yeah. I used to rock boxers, but they're just like too loose. So yeah, I'm all about the boxer briefs now.
All right. What is your ideal vacation?
Could you repeat that?
So, what is your ideal vacation?
Ooh, that's a good one. God, I'm a sucker for many different environments. Honestly, there's so many places I want to see in the world. I would probably like to take like 4 weeks and explore Southeast Asia and hop around to different countries down there. That's a part of the world that I have like zero experience or have very little knowledge on. So I feel like that'd be pretty cool.
Okay.
So vacation's more about like exploring than relaxing.
I have a hard time relaxing. I mean, I'd maybe take like a day or two to just relax and not do anything. But I would love to go out and go be active in a different part of the world.
Okay. This one's straight out of James Lipton, famous interviewer. If heaven exists, what would you want St. Peter to say to you at the pearly gates?
What would I want him to say? I don't know. Like I'm so convinced I'm going to hell because that's it sounds like a lot more fun. So I haven't really had time to consider that. I mean, I guess I'd want assurance that I have access to a toilet up there.
All right, good. All right, that's all that needs to be said. All right, and last one. It's an important one. Are you right-handed or left-handed?
Right-handed.
Okay. I only include that because in the first video that Tina and I did together, we were interviewing each other, and that was the very, very important question that Tina asked me to get to know me. So
Right off the top of my head.
I ask it in every interview now.
Nice.
All
I mean,
right.
it is important. My sister's left-handed, and it's a bit of a rarity.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Left-handed, living in a right-handed world.
Goddamn
Yeah,
fucking
exactly.
oppression, man. All right. No. So any last thoughts from the two of you, Tina?
I actually had one more hot seat question. While the seat's
Okay.
still
Go
open.
ahead.
Stand-up comedy or memes? Which one?
Honestly, memes. I'm a big meme guy.
I thought you'd say that.
All right.
Yeah, I just love the absurdity of memes. I think, I don't know. I could look at memes all day, honestly.
All right. And Ty, any last thoughts?
No, thank you guys for having me. It's been fun.
All right. Cool. I had a lot of fun too, you guys.
Yeah, very introspective and learned a lot about kind of the underground music scene and more kind of about the overall kind of electronic music scene and where it's at and where it's been and where it might be going.
Ditto that, my brother.
And there's so much to talk about with that. If either of you ever have any questions about that, feel free to hit me up anytime.
No, we'd love to have you back. I mean, like, this is only we only scratched the surface of this whole topic, really. All
Sure.
right.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm not going anywhere, so yeah, feel free to hit me up anytime.
All right. Okay. For Tina and Karen, do the tube. I'm Karen.
This is Tina.
All right. Stay safe and stay hydrated. We love y'all. All right. Bye.
Peace.